I left home before sunrise and drove to the mountain cabin to prepare for Christmas. On the way, my grandson texted Grandpa, "Don't go to the cabin today. You'll be in danger." But I never saw his warning. When I arrived, I noticed my son's truck outside and assumed he had come early to help. Then I opened the door and heard him whispering on the phone. At the sound, he spun around. The phone slipped from his hand and his face turned deathly pale. Stepping backward in horror, he blurted out, "Before we go any further, I'm so grateful you're here with me tonight. Drop a comment and tell me what city or country are you watching from." Right now, I read every single one. Welcome to Revenge, Dad, where every story carries a lesson worth keeping. Note, this story contains fictional elements for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to actual names or places is coincidental, but the message is one I believe you'll carry with you. I left Sacramento before the sun had any intention of rising. The dashboard clock read 5:32. When I pulled onto the freeway, my old pickup loaded with everything I'd promised myself I would bring this year. A small Douglas fir was strapped in the truck bed, its branches wrapped in burlap the way Evelyn used to insist on, because she said a tree that arrived looking rough had already been treated like it didn't matter. 2 boxes of ornaments sat in the back seat, and wedged between them, wrapped in a dish towel so it wouldn't rattle, was the tin star, the one Evelyn placed at the top of the tree every single Christmas, from the year we bought the cabin until the December she no longer could. I had not been up to the cabin in the weeks leading into this holiday. I had not been able to make myself go. But this year felt different, or maybe I had just gotten tired of letting grief make my decisions for me. The radio picked up a signal somewhere past Rancho Cordova, and the first song that came through clearly was White Christmas, the old Bing Crosby version, with the strings that swell at the end. Evelyn had loved that version specifically. She would correct anyone who played a cover and say with complete seriousness that some things only worked right the first time they were done. My chest tightened the way it always did when something small and ordinary reached out and reminded me she was gone. 3 years, and those moments still arrived without warning, like stepping off a curb you didn't see. I kept driving. By the time I reached the foothills, the sky had shifted from black to a deep bruised purple, and the temperature on the dashboard read 29 degrees. The road climbed steadily, and the pine trees thickened on either side, their branches dusted white from the snowfall earlier in the week. Evelyn had always said the Sierra Nevada looked its best in December, when the mountains stopped pretending to be approachable. My phone buzzed somewhere around 6:45, rattling against the center console. I was in the middle of a curve, and both hands were where they needed to be, so I let it go. I assumed it was my neighbor back in Sacramento, reminding me to leave a key under the mat. We had talked about it twice already, and he still wasn't convinced I'd remember. I didn't look at the phone. The song on the radio changed. I turned the volume up slightly and thought about what needed to be done when I arrived. Clear the gutters before the next freeze. Check the water heater. Find out if the small window latch in the back bedroom had ever been fixed, or whether I had simply stopped noticing it was broken. Evelyn used to keep a running list of everything the cabin needed. She wrote it on a yellow legal pad and left it on the kitchen counter so neither of us could claim we had forgotten. After she passed, I found 4 of those pads in the drawer beside the stove, each one filled front to back in her careful slanted handwriting. I hadn't thrown any of them away. The date on the dashboard read December 22nd, 2024. I was somewhere between Shingle Springs and El Dorado Hills, maybe 15 minutes from the turnoff onto the mountain road, when the traffic ahead of me slowed without warning. Red and blue lights strobed through the pine trees, casting strange, spinning shadows across the snow-dusted shoulder. I eased off the gas and leaned forward over the steering wheel, trying to see past the line of vehicles in front of me. A California Highway Patrol cruiser sat diagonal across the left lane, its doors open. An ambulance idled on the shoulder, with its rear lights blinking. Farther ahead, a fire truck had pulled as far off the road as the narrow shoulder would allow. And there, just beyond the cone of the ambulance's headlights, was a vehicle that made the breath catch in the back of my throat. A gray SUV, mid-sized the same model year as mine, had gone off the road and rolled onto its sides against the embankment. The front end had crumpled. The driver's door faced the sky. 2 CHP officers were speaking near the hood, and one of them was on a radio, his free hand moving in quick-clip gestures. I slowed to nearly a stop as I drew alongside the scene. The license plate on the wrecked SUV had bent from the impact, the corner folded back so that only part of the number was legible. But what I could make out turned my stomach in a way I couldn't immediately explain. The plate read 4JH771. My plates were 7JH771, one digit different, that was all. An officer in a reflective vest stepped into the road and waved the line of cars forward with a gloved hand. I pressed the gas and moved past, watching the wreck shrink in my rearview mirror until the road curved and took it from view. My hands had tightened on the wheel without me telling them to. I made myself loosen my grip, finger by finger. Coincidence. People drove the same model of vehicle every day across every highway in California. Plates were assigned in sequence, similar numbers happened all the time. There was nothing remarkable about a gray SUV that looked like mine being involved in a highway accident on a winter morning. I told myself that clearly and firmly, the way you tell a nervous dog to settle. My phone buzzed a second time. I was on a downhill stretch that had a reputation for black ice, and my full attention went to the road. I let the call go to voicemail and made a mental note to pull over once I reached the turnoff. I never pulled over. The turnoff came up faster than I expected, and I took it on instinct, swinging onto the narrow two-lane road that wound up toward the cabin through switchbacks and tree cover. The snow was heavier here, an inch or two on the pavement, with tire tracks already pressed into it from someone who had come up earlier in the morning. My headlights swept across the wooden signpost marking the private lane, and I turned in. The gravel crunched under my tires, packed solid from the cold. Through the trees ahead, the cabin windows caught the pale gray light of the early morning sky. And parked in the gravel drive engine off snow, beginning to dust, its hood was Daniel's black pickup truck. I felt something ease in my chest, a loosening of the tension that had sat there since the accident on the highway. Daniel must have driven up early to surprise me. We had been careful with each other lately, the way people are careful with something that has been dropped and repaired, but not quite trusted since. Maybe he was trying. Maybe this was his version of making the effort. I pulled up alongside his truck and cut my engine. Through the cabin windows, a light was on the lamp near the fireplace, the one Evelyn had bought at an estate sale in Placerville, because she said it threw a warm light and every room deserved at least one source of warmth that didn't cost anything to run. I grabbed the tin star from between the boxes, tucked it under my arm, and stepped out into the cold. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was the darkness. Not the comfortable darkness of a cabin that had been closed up for a few weeks. That kind had a stillness to it, a settled quality like a room that had simply been resting. This was something else. The curtains on every window had been pulled shut, and the thin winter light pressing through the fabric was the color of old dishwater. The lamp by the fireplace was on, but it only made the corners of the room look heavier. The second thing I noticed was that the fire hadn't been started. The grate was clean. No newspaper, no kindling, no wood pulled from the stack. Whatever Daniel had been doing since he arrived, getting the cabin warm for his father, had not been part of it. The tin star was still tucked under my arm. I set it down on the side table near the door. There was a stack of papers on the dining table that didn't belong there, documents of some kind too far away for me to read, but close enough that I could see my name printed across the top of the uppermost page. Beside the papers sitting in plain sight on the table, where Evelyn used to set out her morning coffee and her crossword, was a plastic bag. Inside it, I could make out a shape I recognized immediately. My spare keyring, the one I kept in the small lockbox in my bedroom closet back in Sacramento. 7 keys on a brass ring, including the deadbolt key for my front door and the padlock key for the storage unit where I kept Evelyn's things. My stomach dropped before my brain had fully processed what I was seeing. Daniel was standing by the fireplace with his back to me, a cell phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low and clipped the way people speak when they're trying to keep a conversation from carrying. "Not yet," he was saying. "I'll find it before he—" The old floorboard near the entrance creaked under my foot. The sound was small and ordinary, the same sound it had made for 30 years, but it landed in that room like a stone dropped into still water. Daniel spun around. The phone slipped from his hand and hit the braided rug without a sound. His face had gone the color of old wax, not pale, the way a person goes pale from cold or surprise, but drained, hollowed out the way a face looks when every bit of blood has been redirected somewhere more urgent. His eyes found me and stayed on me, and there was something moving behind them that I had never seen on my son's face before. It took me a full second to identify it. It was the specific shock of a man looking at something he had believed with certainty would not be there. "Dad," his voice cracked on the single syllable. His hand went to his chest without him seeming to realize it. You're still alive." My boots were still on. I hadn't moved from just inside the doorway. The tin star was on the side table. The curtains were closed. The fire was not lit. My spare keys were in a plastic bag on the dining table. "What did you just say to me?" I asked. The crack in his voice sealed itself up. His chin came up. A smile appeared on his face, the kind of smile that gets assembled piece by piece rather than arriving all at once. "The roads," he said, and he bent to pick up his phone from the rug, keeping his eyes on it rather than on me. "I heard about an accident on the way up. A car that looked like yours. I was worried, that's all." "You heard about it fast." "Traffic alert, on my phone." He straightened and slid the phone into his jacket pocket. "I came up early to help you get the place ready. Thought it might be a nice surprise." He was 38 years old, my son. He had his mother's forehead and my jaw, and a habit of rubbing the back of his neck when he was working through something difficult. He was rubbing it now. "What's on the table?" I asked. "Just some paperwork. My phone rang. The name on the screen was Ethan. I held Daniel's gaze for one beat longer than was comfortable. Then I answered, "Grandpa." My grandson's voice came through tight and unsteady like a wire pulled too close to its breaking point. "Where are you right now?" "Just got to the cabin," I said. I heard him pull in a sharp breath. Then, "You need to leave, right now before Dad knows I called. Last night I heard him on the phone with someone, a man named Marcus. He said your car was going to get stopped by the police on the way up. Then Dad was going to come find something Grandma hid in the cabin." Ethan's voice dropped even lower. "They talked about a car that looked like yours. Grandpa, they planned this." Every nerve ending in my body went electric. I looked at the papers on the table with my name on them. I looked at my spare keys in the plastic bag. I looked at Daniel, who was watching me, with his jaw set and his hands very still at his sides, reading my face the way a man reads a weather system that is moving faster than he expected. I made myself breathe out slowly. "Ah, got it, buddy," I said, keeping my voice light and easy, the voice I used when I didn't want to alarm a client or a contractor. "I'll pick up those batteries you wanted, not a problem." I ended the call and slid my phone into my coat pocket. "What did he want?" Daniel asked. His voice was steady, but his right hand had moved to grip the back of the dining chair, and his knuckles had gone white against the wood. "Christmas present," I said. "He's been asking about the same toy for 3 weeks." I set my hands in my coat pockets and stood there in the doorway of the cabin my wife had loved more than any other place on earth, and I let my mind do what it had been trying to do since I passed that wreck on the highway. The SUV, same model. 1 digit different on the plate. You're still alive. My spare keys from a locked box in my bedroom closet in Sacramento, sitting on the table of a cabin. Daniel had no reason to enter before I arrived. Documents with my name on them next to the keys on the table where Evelyn used to work her crosswords. Daniel standing between me and the door, his hand white on the back of the chair, watching me with the careful attention of a man who has stopped pretending he came here to help string lights. The pieces did not fall into place slowly. They landed all at once, the whole picture assembling itself in the space between one breath and the next, and what it showed me was something so far outside the frame of what I had believed about my son that my mind tried to push it away twice before it let it stand. My chest didn't tighten this time. My hands didn't shake. A cold, flat calm settled over me instead, the kind that doesn't feel like peace because it isn't. It's what's left when every other option has been ruled out. I did not let any of it reach my face. "I think I left my headache medicine in the truck," I said. "I'm going to go grab it." Daniel released the chair and stepped toward the door. "I'll get it for you." "You don't know where I keep it. Just tell me which bag." "Daniel." I looked at him directly, and I kept my voice the same easy temperature it had been since I walked in. "I know where my own medicine is. Stay in here and get the fire going. I'll be right back." He stopped moving. Something shifted behind his eyes, a calculation running too fast to hide, and then he stepped aside. I walked out the front door and into the cold morning air, and I did not look back. I had made it as far as the hood of my truck when I heard tires on the gravel. A red Subaru wagon came around the bend in the lane, moving slowly, its windshield fogged at the corners from the heater running on high. It pulled up alongside Daniel's truck and stopped, and the driver's door swung open before the engine had fully quit. Martha Bellamy was 67 years old and had lived in the A-frame cabin 2 lots down from ours since before Evelyn and I bought our place. She was a retired school teacher from Folsom who had come up to the mountains for a long weekend in 1991 and simply never gone back. She had silver hair she kept in a practical braid, a voice that carried the particular authority of someone who had spent decades managing rooms full of children who didn't want to be managed, and a habit of showing up with food at exactly the moments when food was what a situation required. She was carrying a basket covered with a red and white checkered cloth. "Walter Haynes," she said, looking me over with the frank assessment of a woman who does not believe in softening what she sees. "You look like you drove up here from the bottom of a lake. What's wrong with you?" "Good morning, Martha." "Don't good morning me." She set the basket on the hood of her car and tilted her head toward the cabin. "Daniel's here already. I saw his truck last night when I was coming back from the store. Figured he came up early to help." "That's what he says." She looked at me for a long moment. Martha had known Evelyn for 26 years. She had sat with me on the porch the summer after the funeral and let me talk until I ran out of words, and when I ran out of words, she had not tried to fill the space with anything. She knew how to read what a person wasn't saying. "Walter," she said carefully, "what's actually going on?" I kept my voice low because the front door of the cabin was 20 feet behind me and sound carried in cold air. "I need to get off this mountain for a little while. My truck's been making a noise something in the front end. I was hoping Bobby might take a look at it today." Bobby was her younger brother, who ran a small repair shop down at the base of the mountain off Green Valley Road. He was a decent mechanic, and he owed Martha approximately 40 years of favors. Martha's eyes held mine for a beat longer than the conversation required. Then she picked up her basket, walked to the passenger side of her Subaru, and opened the door. "Get in," she said. "I'll tell Daniel you flagged me down in the lane." I did not argue. I walked to the passenger side, and as I passed the front of her car, I glanced back at the cabin. The curtain in the front window shifted just slightly, just enough, and I knew Daniel was watching from inside. I got in and pulled the door shut. Martha backed out of the lane without a word, her eyes on the rearview mirror, her jaw set. When we reached the main road and she straightened the wheel and pointed us downhill, she finally spoke. "You want to tell me what that was?" "Not yet," I said. "Give me 2 minutes." I pulled out my phone. The missed call was from Ethan. Below it, a text message sent at 6:47. "That morning, Grandpa don't go to the cabin today. You'll be in danger. Call me." Below the text was an audio file attached without any explanation, 47 seconds long. My thumb hovered over it. Then I pressed play. The recording was imperfect, muffled at the edges, as though it had been captured through a closed door or from across a room, but the voices were clear enough. The first one was Daniel's. I had heard that voice every day for 38 years. I would have known it anywhere. If they find her things in his car, they'll reopen the case. He'll be held long enough for me to get into the cabin and find whatever Mom left. A second voice, older, measured with the flat, careful tone of a man who had spent a great deal of time making terrible things sound reasonable. And the vehicle, similar plates, registration in his name, it'll hold up long enough. Every lead points back to Walter before anyone starts looking at me. The second voice again. "Just find what your mother hid and get rid of it. Don't let this turn into something that can't be walked back. Daniel, I'm not going to hurt my father. I know you're not. But your father finding that cabin full of what your mother collected over 17 years will hurt you in ways you won't recover from. Get the tape. Burn it. End this." The sound of a door opening and closing. Then silence, and the file ended. I lowered the phone to my knee. Martha was watching the road, both hands on the wheel, but I could see from the set of her shoulders that she had heard every word of it through the car's quiet interior. Her knuckles had gone tight on the steering wheel. A muscle in her jaw was working steadily the way it did when she was holding something back. "Martha," my voice came out steadier than I felt. The cold calm that had settled over me in the cabin was still there, but underneath it something had begun to shake. Not my hands, not my voice, but something deeper. Something without a name that lived in the place where a man keeps the things he believed to be permanent. "I need you to take me to the sheriff's substation, not Bobby's shop, the substation on Bass Lake Road." She did not ask why. She did not tell me I should call first or wait and think it through. She simply adjusted her grip on the wheel, checked her mirror, and said, "That's about 12 minutes from here." "That's fine." We drove. The pine trees moved past the windows in long, dark stripes, and the snow on the road shoulders was bright and clean in the morning light, and I sat in the passenger seat of Martha Bellamy's Subaru and thought about a file cabinet in my bedroom closet in Sacramento, where I kept the papers from Evelyn's estate. I thought about a yellow legal pad with her handwriting on it. I thought about how she had asked me twice in the last year of her life, whether I thought Daniel was truly happy, and how I had said yes both times without really examining the question. I thought about a voice on a recording saying the words 17 years. 17 years was a long time to carry something. It was long enough for a thing to become part of the architecture of a person's life, load-bearing, hidden inside the walls, invisible until the moment it wasn't. I thought about the gray SUV on the highway, rolled onto its side in the snow, one digit different on the plate. I thought about my son's face when he turned around and found me standing in the doorway of a cabin he had believed I would never reach. My eyes burned at the corners. I pressed 2 fingers against them hard until the feeling passed. This was not the moment. There would be a moment for whatever this was going to cost me, but it was not inside Martha Bellamy's car on a mountain road at 9 in the morning, 12 minutes from the substation on Bass Lake Road. I straightened in the seat and looked at the road ahead. "There's a man named Marcus," I said. "I don't know his last name yet, but I heard his voice on that recording." "I heard it too," Martha said. "When we get to the substation, I'm going to need you to stay with me for a little while, as a witness, to confirm what you heard." Martha reached over and patted the back of my hand, once firm, brief, the way she might steady a student who had just been given very hard news and needed to know that someone in the room was not going to fall apart. "I've got nowhere else to be," she said. The El Dorado County Sheriff's substation on Bass Lake Road was a low sand-colored building set back from the road behind a gravel lot. It looked like it had been designed by someone whose primary concern was function and whose secondary concern was that no one would ever mistake it for something else. Martha pulled in and parked, and I was out of the car before she had the engine off. Deputy Elena Cruz met us at the front desk. She was somewhere in her mid-40s with dark hair pulled back tight, and the kind of steady, unhurried eyes that tend to develop in people who spend years walking into situations that have already gone wrong. She looked at me the way experienced officers look at civilians who come in carrying something heavy, not with pity, but with the particular attention of someone who needs to quickly determine how much of what they're about to hear is going to require immediate action. "Mr. Haynes," she said, after I had given my name. "Come on back." We sat at a table in a small room off the main corridor. Martha sat beside me. Cruz sat across from us with a legal pad and a pen, and she listened without interrupting while I laid out everything: the accident on the highway, the license plate Daniel in the cabin, the spare keys, the documents with my name on them, Ethan's call, and the audio file. When I finished, I slid my phone across the table and pressed play. Cruz listened to the recording, with her pen resting against the pad and her eyes on the middle distance. When it ended, she tapped the pen twice against the table slowly. "I have to be straight with you about this recording," she said. "Under California Penal Code 632, recording a private conversation without the consent of all parties is a violation of state law. That means this file has consent problems. It cannot be introduced as direct evidence in court." My chest tightened. "Then it's useless." "I didn't say that." Cruz pulled the phone toward her and looked at the screen. "What it gives us is probable cause grounds to investigate, apply for a warrant, and start building a case from independent evidence. The recording tells us where to look. It just can't be what we hang the case on." She slid the phone back. "There's a difference between a door and what's behind it. This is the door." She picked up her radio and stepped out of the room for several minutes. When she came back, she set a manila folder on the table and opened it. "The vehicle on Highway 50 this morning," she said. "Gray SUV purchased for cash 6 days ago at a dealership in Los Angeles. The driver fled on foot before first responders arrived. We found the contents of the trunk when the car was secured." She turned the folder toward me. "A jacket, your name written on the inside collar in permanent marker, and a sealed metal box containing an employee identification card issued to Aaliyah Donovan." The name hit me somewhere behind the sternum. Cruz watched my face carefully. "You recognize that name?" "Tell me who she is," I said, though part of me had already begun to understand. "Leah Donovan, 22 years old, reported missing in March of 2007, last seen leaving her shift at a diner near El Dorado Hills." Cruz kept her voice level and professional, but her eyes stayed on mine. "The case was never closed, no body was ever found. March of 2007. Daniel had been 21 years old. He had borrowed my old pickup truck to go to a party. He had come home at 2 in the morning with a dented front bumper and mud on his jacket and a story about hitting a deer on the mountain road, and I had believed him completely because he was my son, and I was a man who believed his son. My hands, which had been flat and still on the table, curled into fists in my lap, where Cruz couldn't see them. The statute of limitations. I said because I needed to say something, and that was the thing my mind had caught on. It's been 17 years. Cruz nodded. Normally, vehicular manslaughter carries a 6-year statute under California law, but Leah Donovan was listed as a missing person. Her death was never established by a court. California law tolls the statute, pauses the clock when the victim's death hasn't been legally confirmed. The moment her remains are found and identified, the clock starts. We still have jurisdiction. The air in the small room felt very close. The door opened and Vivian Marsh walked in, pulling off a pair of dark leather gloves. She was 71 years old, with silver hair cut short and dark red glasses she wore low on her nose. She had handled the legal work when I sold my company, and again when Evelyn's estate was settled, and she had the professional warmth of someone who understood that warmth and precision were not opposites. She looked at the folder on the table, then at me. "Tell me everything," she said. "From the beginning," I told her. She listened without moving. When I finished, she took off her glasses, cleaned them with the hem of her jacket, and put them back on. "The recording gives you probable cause," she said to Cruz. "But to connect Daniel to Leah Donovan, you need him to say it himself." She looked at me. "Is there anything in that cabin that could make him talk?" I thought about the key in my coat pocket, the small brass key Evelyn had left for me, tucked inside an envelope behind a drawer with a note in her handwriting that said, "Beneath where we always lit the night." "Yes," I said. "I think there is." Cruz leaned forward. "Then here is what we are going to do." Cruz gave me a recording device the size of a shirt button and told me to keep it in my left breast pocket. She gave me her direct number and told me to leave the front door of the cabin unlatched. She told me she would have 2 deputies positioned at the back of the property before I arrived, and that when she drove past the lane with her headlights on, that was my signal to move toward the door. Then she looked at me across the table and said, "If at any point you feel unsafe, you walk out. You don't wait for the signal, you walk out." "I understand," I said. "Mr. Haynes?" Her voice dropped just slightly. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I thought about an envelope I had found 3 weeks ago, tucked behind the false back of a drawer in Evelyn's old cedar dresser. On the outside, in her handwriting, "Walter, if Daniel asks about the winter of 2007, again don't believe him." Inside, a small brass key and a scrap of paper, "Beneath where we always lit the night." "Yes," I said. "I'm sure." I drove back up the mountain alone. The road was the same road it had always been, the same switchbacks, the same drop-offs on the passenger side, the same stand of sugar pines at the 3rd curve that Evelyn had photographed every season for 15 years, because she said they were the ones that told her the mountain was still paying attention. But the road felt different now, the way a room feels different after you've learned something terrible happened inside it. I kept both hands on the wheel and let my mind go back. Evelyn had been awake when Daniel came home that March night in 2007. I knew that now, though, I had not known it then. I had been asleep deeply, completely asleep, the way a man sleeps when he believes his family is safe, and she had heard the truck in the drive and gone to the window, and she had seen things I did not see. She saw Daniel come out of the cab, moving too carefully the way people move when they are managing something they don't want to drop. She saw the dent in the front bumper catching the porch light. She saw him take off his jacket before he came inside and leave it on the porch rail in the cold, and she understood, without being told, that whatever was on that jacket was something he did not want to carry into the house. She had not woken me. In the days that followed, she had gone out to the truck before I did and run her fingers along the crumpled metal and taken a photograph with the small camera she kept in her coat pocket for bird sightings and first snowfalls and the faces of people she loved when they didn't know she was looking. She had written down the time Daniel came home in the small notebook she kept in the kitchen drawer beside the good scissors. And then she had waited. She waited because she loved her son and needed to understand before she acted. She waited because she loved me and knew that what she was beginning to suspect would break something in me that could not be repaired. She asked Daniel directly 3 days later, and he told her part of the truth enough to confirm what she feared, not enough to tell her everything. He promised he would go to the police. He looked her in the eye and promised. He never went. My hands tightened on the wheel until my knuckles ached. Evelyn had spent 12 years watching her son live on top of what he had done. She had watched him get married and have Ethan and build a career and sit at Christmas tables and laugh at things that were funny and she had carried the weight of knowing what was buried underneath all of it, and she had carried it without putting it down once. In 2019, she had hired a private investigator out of Sacramento. I found the records in the folder the detective had left with her. She had learned the name Marcus Vane, learned about a file in Nevada that had been opened and closed without charges, learned the location of an abandoned mining site north of Mercer Lake. She had gathered everything into a folder and locked it inside the small compartment beneath the copper lantern she kept on the window ledge, the lantern she lit every Christmas Eve, without exception, because she said a light in the window was how a house told the people it loved that it was still there. She had also written a letter to a woman named Carol Donovan. She had sealed it and addressed it and held it in her hands, and she had not mailed it, because mailing it would have started something she could not control, and she could not control whether that something would reach back and destroy me along with Daniel. So she had put the letter in the compartment with everything else. And in the last year of her life, she had left me a key. The cabin appeared through the trees ahead, its windows lit against the gray December sky. I pulled onto the gravel lane and cut my speed. My heart was knocking against my ribs in a way I could feel in my back teeth. I pressed one hand flat against my chest for a moment, not to calm myself, just to feel it, to confirm that it was still beating, that I was still here, that whatever was about to happen, I was going to be present for it. Evelyn had carried this for 17 years so that I wouldn't have to. The least I could do was finish it. I parked, got out, and walked to the front door. Before I show you what Evelyn hid inside that lantern, and I promise you nothing could have prepared me for what I found, drop the number 6 in the comments right now if you're still here with me. I want to know how many of you have stayed this far, because what comes next changes everything. A quick note, the story you're hearing on Revenge Dad contains some fictional elements woven in for depth and reflection. It may not mirror any one person's experience, and if this type of storytelling isn't for you, this is a good moment to step away and find something that fits you better. Daniel had lit the fire while I was gone. He had also pulled the curtains open, turned on the lamp above the kitchen table, and set 2 mugs of coffee on the counter. One on each side the way Evelyn used to do, when she wanted a conversation to feel like a choice rather than a confrontation. The cabin smelled of wood smoke and fresh grounds, and if you had walked in without knowing anything, you might have thought it looked welcoming. I knew everything. It looked like a stage. As I stepped through the front door, Daniel was just sliding his phone into his jacket pocket with the deliberate casualness of someone trying not to look like they'd been using it. He turned toward the window that faced the tree line, his arms crossing loosely over his chest, his weight on his back foot. He had changed his jacket since that morning. The gray one was gone, replaced with a heavier canvas coat I didn't recognize. His face was composed. He had used the time I was away to build something careful and controlled over whatever had been showing when I walked in that first time, and the result was a version of my son that looked almost ordinary. Almost? "You came back," he said. I said I would. "You were gone a long time. Bobby had to finish up with another customer first." I set my keys on the side table and kept my coat on. The button-sized device Cruz had given me sat in my left breast pocket, and I was aware of it the way you're aware of a splinter constantly without being able to look at it. The noise turned out to be nothing. Loose heat shield. Daniel nodded slowly. His eyes moved in my coat pocket for just a fraction of a second, then back to my face. "You want that coffee?" "In a minute." I crossed the room toward the dining table and set the small brass key on the wood between us. It made a thin, clean sound when it landed. Daniel's composed expression didn't break, but his jaw tightened just once, just briefly, and his arms, which had been crossed loosely, pressed closer against his chest. "What is that?" he asked. "Your mother left it for me," I said, inside an envelope behind the drawer of her cedar dresser, along with a note. I watched his face. She wrote beneath, "Where we always lit the night." Something moved through Daniel's eyes that he couldn't quite suppress, a flicker of something raw and frightened that lasted less than a second before he pushed it back down. His voice came out carefully measured. "Dad, Mom was sick those last months. Her memory wasn't—" "Daniel!" I said his name quietly the way I used to say it when he was a boy, and had said something that required correction without humiliation. "Your mother remembered everything that mattered. She always did." I picked up the key and walked to the window ledge. The copper lantern sat where it had always sat, centered on the sill. Its base darkened with years of handling the small glass panels, clouded at the corners from decades of flame. Evelyn had carried it up from a shop in Sutter Creek the second summer we owned the cabin. She had set it on that ledge the first night and lit it, and she had lit it every Christmas Eve after that without exception. And now it stood in the thin December light like the one fixture in the room that had never been moved. I turned it over in my hands. Along the underside of the base worked into the decorative scrolling so precisely that you would never find it unless you knew it was. There was a small keyhole. The brass around it was worn smooth, not from age, but from being touched repeatedly deliberately by someone who wanted to be certain it would always open when the moment came. My throat closed around something I couldn't name. I pressed the key in and turned it. A panel in the base released with a soft, clean click, and a compartment no larger than a shoebox opened beneath my hands. Inside a photograph, a small square of dark fabric, a sealed envelope addressed in Evelyn's handwriting to Carol Donovan, and a slim folder from a Sacramento private investigations firm. I set the lantern down and picked up the photograph first. It showed the front end of my old pickup truck, the one I'd sold years ago, with the bumper visibly dented on the driver's side. Standing beside it, looking down at his hands with his back partly to the camera, was Daniel. He was 21 years old in the photograph, and his hands were dark with something I did not want to name. On the back of the photograph, in Evelyn's careful script, he came home at 2:13. He said her name in his sleep. My legs went unsteady under me. I set one hand on the window ledge to keep myself upright and stood there breathing through the tightness that had locked across my chest like a closed fist. Daniel had gone very still across the room. "She photographed the truck," I said. My voice came out rougher than I intended. "Dad, she wrote down the time you came home." I set the photograph on the ledge beside the lantern. "She kept it for 17 years, Daniel. She was trying to—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. When he looked at me again, his careful composure had developed a crack down the center that he was no longer fully able to manage. "You have to understand the position she was in." "I'm beginning to." I picked up the small square of dark fabric, a button I realized. A single coat button in a deep charcoal blue, the kind with 4 holes and a slightly raised edge. I turned it over in my palm. The fabric was fine. The style was not Daniel's. "This isn't yours," I said. Daniel's eyes locked onto the button. The crack in his composure split wider. "Whose is it?" I asked. He looked away toward the fire, and when he spoke, his voice had dropped to something that barely qualified as sound. "You don't want to know the answer to that." I set the button down next to the photograph. "Tell me what happened to Leah Donovan," I said. Daniel didn't answer right away. He walked to the fireplace and stood with his back to me, one hand braced against the mantel, staring into the fire, the way a man stares into something when he is buying himself the last few seconds before a door closes permanently behind him. His shoulders rose and fell with a breath that was too controlled to be natural. The fire snapped and threw a pulse of orange light across the room, and in it I could see the tension running up through his spine like a current. "Dad," he said, without turning around, "some things are better left alone. Leah Donovan's mother has been waiting 17 years to find out what happened to her daughter," I said. "I don't think she would agree with you." His hand tightened on the mantel until the knuckles went white as river stones. Then he turned around, and what was on his face was not the careful composure he had been wearing since I walked back in. That was gone entirely. What was left underneath it was something I had never seen on my son's face before, and hope never to see again: the specific hollowed-out exhaustion of a man who has been holding something terrible in place for so long that his arms have simply given out. He crossed the room and dropped into the chair beside the fireplace. Evelyn's chair, the one with the worn armrests where she used to rest her hands while she read, and he sat in it the way a person sits when they are no longer certain their legs will support them if they stay upright. "Open the folder," he said. His voice had gone flat. "You're going to open it anyway." I opened the folder from the private investigations firm. The first pages were background on Marcus Vane, his real name, his business registration in Nevada, a prior investigation from 2003 involving a missing person in Washoe County that had been closed without charges due to insufficient evidence. The investigator had noted in careful professional language that the pattern of the Nevada case bore structural similarities to the Leah Donovan disappearance. Same geography, same profile, same outcome. The last page was a photograph, a printout, from what appeared to be a social media archive showing a group of young men at a party. The image was dated March 4th, 2007, 8 days before Leah Donovan was reported missing. Marcus Vane was in the center of the photograph. He was younger, heavier with shorter hair, but the jaw and the set of the eyes were unmistakable. He was wearing a charcoal blue jacket, fine fabric 4-hole buttons with a slightly raised edge. I set the photograph next to the button on the window ledge. The match was exact. "Your mother didn't just photograph the truck," I said. My voice came out quiet and hard the way metal sounds when it has been heated and then cooled too fast. She identified Marcus. She knew there were 2 of you that night. Daniel pressed both hands over his face. His fingers dug into his forehead. A sound came out of him that was not quite a word, something low and broken that started in his chest and didn't make it all the way out. The kind of sound a person makes when grief and guilt have occupied the same space for so long that they have become indistinguishable from each other. "She never said anything to me," he said from behind his hands. "Not once. Not in 17 years. "No," I said, "she didn't." "Why?" His hands dropped. His eyes were red at the rims, and the question in them was genuine, the raw, bewildered question of a man who cannot understand why he was given grace he did not deserve. "Why didn't she just turn me in?" I looked at the sealed envelope addressed to Carol Donovan, sitting on the ledge beside the photograph, and the button and the open compartment of the lantern his mother had carried up this mountain every summer for 30 years. "Because she loved you," I said, "and because she was afraid that if she did, it would reach back and destroy me along with you." I picked up the envelope and held it. The paper was slightly soft at the corners from being handled. She had picked it up and put it down more than once, I could tell. She wrote to Leah's mother. She addressed it. She never mailed it. She chose to protect this family instead. Daniel stared at the envelope. His jaw was shaking. He pressed it shut with visible effort, and the muscle in his cheek jumped with the strain of it. "She carried that alone," I said. "For 17 years, while you sat at her table and ate her food, and let her believe every Christmas that there was still time for you to do the right thing yourself." "I know." The words came out wrecked. "Dad, I know." "The button," I said. "The investigator matched it to a photograph. It's Marcus's coat." I watched my son's face. "Your mother knew he was there that night. She kept the evidence to make certain that if the truth ever came out, it would take him down too, not just you." Daniel's breath hitched. He pressed the back of his hand against his mouth, hard, holding something back that was trying very badly to come forward. "She was protecting you even then," I said. "Even from him." "Don't." His voice cracked completely. "Please don't tell me that right now. Tell me what happened to Leah Donovan Daniel." I set the envelope down gently. I was not going to raise my voice. I was not going to put my fist through anything. The rage that was moving through me was the cold structural kind, the kind that doesn't burn, but holds its shape indefinitely. "Tell me all of it, from the beginning, because I am going to sit in this chair until you do, and then I am going to decide what happens next." Daniel looked at me for a long moment. His son's face, my son's face, the face I had watched learn to walk and read and drive and grieve, and which was now doing something I had never prepared either of us for. He looked down at his hands, and he started talking. He told it the way people tell things they have rehearsed inside their own heads for so long that the words have worn grooves, not smooth, not easy but automatic in the way that pain can become automatic when you have carried it long enough that you no longer know how to put it down. It was a Friday night in March. He had been at Marcus's place in El Dorado Hills, a rented house that backed up against the tree line, the kind of place that felt temporary because everything about Marcus's life in those years was temporary. There had been 6 or 7 people there, drinks afire in the backyard. Daniel had been 21 years old and had not yet developed the instinct that tells a person when they have had enough. He left around midnight. The road coming down off the hill was narrow, 2 lanes, no shoulder to speak of. Leah Donovan had been walking on the right side of the road because the bus that was supposed to take her home after her shift at the diner had not come, and the next one wasn't until 1 in the morning, and it was cold, and she had decided to walk. Daniel's voice dropped to almost nothing when he reached this part. "I didn't see her," he said. His hands were pressed flat against his thighs, and his eyes were fixed on the middle distance at a point somewhere below the fireplace grate. "Not until the last second. I hit the brakes, but—" He stopped, drew a breath that shuddered on the way in. The front end caught her on the right side. She went down into the drainage ditch along the road. My jaw was clenched so tightly I could feel it in my temples. I did not speak. "I got out," Daniel said. "She was breathing. I could hear her. I had my phone in my hand and I was going to call 911. I swear to God I was going to call. And then Marcus pulled up behind me. He pressed his lips together until they went white. He'd been following maybe a quarter-mile back. He saw the whole thing. And he told you not to call. He said if I called, everything would come out, the drinking, the accident, my age. He said your company would be investigated because the truck was registered to you. He said Mom couldn't handle it. Daniel's voice broke on the word. Mom cracked clean down the middle like something that has been stressed past its limit. He pressed on anyway. He said he knew how to handle it, that it would look like she'd been hit by someone else, that no one would ever connect it back to me. The fire had burned down while he was talking. Neither of us had moved to add wood. Where did you take her? I asked. Daniel's throat worked. There's an abandoned mining site north of Mercer Lake. Marcus knew about it. He said it was deep enough that... He stopped again, closed his eyes. We put her in the truck. Marcus drove. I couldn't. I was in no condition to drive. Was she still alive when you got there? The question landed in the room and stayed there. Daniel opened his eyes. They were wet at the edges and his face had gone the color and texture of old concrete gray porous, like something that had been rained on for too many years. He looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes was not the guilt of a man confessing. It was the specific devastation of a man finally saying out loud the thing that has been eating him from the inside for 17 years. I don't know, he said. I didn't check. 4 words. I stood up from the chair. I needed to stand up. My legs needed to be under me. I walked to the window and put both hands on the ledge on either side of the lantern and looked out at the snow on the tree line and breathed 1 breath, 2, 3, until the pressure behind my eyes receded enough that I could see clearly. Leah Donovan had been 22 years old. She had been walking home in the cold because a bus had not come, and my son had driven away from her while she was still breathing. I turned back around. Rebecca, I said. Does she know? Daniel's head came up sharply. The surprise on his face told me he hadn't expected that name. His mouth opened and then he made a decision. I could see him make a small, tired collapse behind the eyes. And he nodded. 2019, he said. We'd been at a dinner with some people from work, and afterward Rebecca and I had a drink at home, and I'd had too much. I told her. He rubbed his face with both hands, dragging them down from his forehead to his chin, like he was trying to rearrange his own features. She wanted me to go to the police. She sat across the table from me at 2 a.m. and told me I had to turn myself in. She cried. She told me it was the only way to live with it. But you didn't go. I told her that if I confessed, Ethan would grow up visiting his father in prison. I told her the investigation might reach back to you, to the truck repair, to things that would make you look complicit, even though you didn't know anything. His voice went raw and ragged at the edges. She finally said she understood. She stopped bringing it up. But she looked at me differently after that night. I don't think she ever really looked at me the same way again. She left the recording for Ethan to find, I said. Daniel's brow pulled tight. What? The audio file. The conversation between you and Marcus. Ethan sent it to me this morning. I watched my son's face process this. The confusion, then the slow dawning comprehension, then something that was grief and something that was gratitude, and something that was shame, all arriving at the same moment in the same set of features. Rebecca recorded it on an old phone she kept in the kitchen drawer. She set it running when she heard you on the call with Marcus and didn't know how to stop what she'd started. She left the phone where Ethan would find it. She didn't know what she was exposing. She only knew you were going to do something that would hurt me. Daniel pressed the heels of both hands against his eyes. His shoulders shook once, a single involuntary convulsion, and then he pulled himself back and held himself very still, the way a person holds still when they are afraid that if they let go of the tension, they are the only thing keeping themselves from coming apart entirely. She was trying to protect your father, I said. Even then, all of them were. A sound came out of my son that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Not words, not crying exactly. Something older and less manageable than either. The sound of a man arriving 17 years too late at the full weight of what he had done. Then from outside came the crunch of tires on gravel. Daniel's head snapped up. The back door of the cabin opened without a knock. The man who stepped through the back door of my cabin moved the way certain men move when they have spent a long time walking into difficult rooms, unhurried, deliberate, with the particular ease of someone who has decided in advance that whatever he finds on the other side will be manageable. He was somewhere in his mid-40s, broad through the shoulders, with dark hair going silver at the temples, and a face that had been arranged by long practice into an expression of calm authority. He wore a charcoal wool coat, good leather gloves, and the kind of boots that cost more than most people spend on a month of groceries. He looked like a man who had made a career of appearing at all times to be the most composed person in any given situation. He looked at me first, then at Daniel, then at the open lantern on the window ledge, the photograph, the button, the folder. He took all of it in without his expression changing by a single degree. "Daniel texted me," he said, before either of us could speak. His voice was exactly as it had sounded on the recording, measured reasonable, the voice of a man explaining something obvious to someone who ought to have understood it already. "He said you'd come back with the key. I assumed he needed help managing the situation." "Managing it?" I said. "That's what I do." He pulled off his gloves one finger at a time and folded them into his coat pocket. "Mr. Haynes, I understand this looks alarming, but what you're dealing with here is a family matter that got out of hand. Whatever Daniel told you in the last 20 minutes, I'd encourage you to consider the source. He's been under significant stress." "He told me about the mining site north of Mercer Lake," I said. Something moved through Marcus Vane's eyes. It was not fear. It was something colder and more deliberate than fear, the rapid, precise recalculation of a man who has just discovered that the perimeter he thought he controlled has been breached from a direction he hadn't accounted for. It lasted less than a second, and then his expression reassembled itself into something smooth and carefully neutral. "Daniel," he said, without looking away from me, "find the recording device." Daniel didn't move. Marcus turned his head. "Daniel." "He doesn't have a recording," Daniel said. His voice was rough from what the last half hour had taken out of him, but there was something underneath it now that hadn't been there before. A steadiness thin and new, like ice that has just begun to form and might not yet hold weight. "And even if he did, it wouldn't matter. I already told him everything." Marcus went very still. "Everything," he repeated. "Everything." Daniel stood up from Evelyn's chair. His legs were unsteady under him, and he knew it. He put a hand on the armrest to push himself upright, and when he was standing, he kept one hand there for a moment longer than necessary. "Leah, the site, the car, your Nevada record." He looked at Marcus with the eyes of a man who has been afraid of something for 17 years and has just discovered in the wreckage of a single afternoon that the fear cost him more than the thing itself ever could have. "She knew about you. His wife knew about you. She hired someone to find out." Marcus looked at the folder on the window ledge, the photograph inside it. He looked at the button beside the photograph. For the first time since he walked through that door, something flickered across his face that was not entirely controlled. "Walter," he said, and the shift to my first name was smooth, and practiced the move of a man changing T-sticks without changing posture. "Whatever Evelyn believes, she had put together a private investigator's report, some old photographs that is not evidence. That is a grieving woman's attempt to make sense of something she didn't fully understand. A button, a picture from a party." He spread his hands open and reasonable. "You're a businessman. You understand the difference between suspicion and proof." "I understand the difference between a door and what's behind it," I said. "A sheriff's deputy explained it to me this morning." The openness left his hands. They dropped to his sides. He turned back to Daniel. When he spoke again, the reasonableness was gone, replaced by something stripped down and direct. "We need to find whatever recording device he's carrying, and we need to leave, right now. Whatever you've said in the last half hour, it's your word against his. You were under duress. You were emotionally compromised. Any competent attorney can—" "Stop!" Daniel's voice came out harder than I had heard it all day. He stepped away from Evelyn's chair, putting himself between Marcus and the window ledge where the evidence lay. His hands were shaking. I could see it from across the room, the fine tremor running through his fingers that he was trying to hold still by pressing them against his thighs, but his feet were planted. "You told me no one else would get hurt." "No one has been hurt." "Leah Donovan." The name came out of Daniel's mouth like something he had been holding in his closed fist for 17 years and had finally, with great effort, forced open his hand to release. "She was hurt. She was 22 years old, and she was hurt, and we left her there, and you told me it was the only way, and I believed you." His voice cracked and rebuilt itself in the same breath. "I believed you because I needed to believe something, and you were standing right there, and I was 21 years old, and I was terrified, and I made the worst decision of my life because you made it sound like the only decision available. Marcus's jaw tightened. Daniel, you came here tonight because you were afraid I was going to fall apart. Daniel's voice had steadied into something I had not heard from him in a very long time. Not confidence exactly, but the sound of a person who has stopped pretending. You came because you needed to control what happened next. That's what you do. That's what you've always done. He looked at Marcus with clear, exhausted eyes. I'm done letting you do it. Marcus took one step toward Walter. Daniel moved first. He stepped into the space between us, put his hand flat against Marcus's chest, and pushed not hard, not violently, but with the absolute physical certainty of a man who has made a decision and means it down to his bones. That's enough, Daniel said. Marcus grabbed Daniel's wrist. Get out of my... Through the window, a bar of blue light swept slowly across the snow on the tree line. There and gone. There and gone. Cruz's signal. Marcus saw it. I watched his eyes track it. Watched the calculation run behind them, door to the front door to the back. Daniel's hand still against his chest. The folder on the ledge, 17 years of careful architecture, beginning to come apart at the load-bearing points all at once. He shoved Daniel's arm aside and lunged for the back door. He pulled it open. 2 deputies stood on the back porch, their breath clouding in the cold air, their hands at their sides. Marcus Vane stopped moving. From the front of the cabin, Deputy Cruz's voice came through the door, steady and clear as a line drawn in fresh snow. Marcus Vane, step away from the door and put your hands where I can see them. Cruz came through the front door the same way she did everything, without unnecessary motion, without announcement, with the particular economy of someone who has learned that composure in a room that has already spent itself on drama is more useful than anything else she could bring. She had her handcuffs out before she reached Marcus. Hands behind your back, she said. Marcus turned from the back doorway. He looked at Cruz, at the 2 deputies filing in from behind him, at Daniel, standing in the middle of the room, with his arms at his sides and his chest still heaving from the effort of the last 20 minutes. He looked at me, and then with the same deliberate calm he had carried in with him, he clasped his hands behind his back and waited. That, I thought, was the most frightening thing about Marcus Vane. Not that he had done what he had done, but that even now, standing in my cabin with handcuffs closing around his wrists, he looked like a man who was already working out his next move. Cruz worked quickly and without ceremony. She read Marcus his rights in a voice that was flat and precise, and he listened without interrupting, his eyes moving around the room in small, careful increments, cataloging exits and witnesses and angles the way a man catalogs a room he intends to return to. Then Cruz turned to Daniel. Daniel didn't wait to be told. He turned around, put his wrists together behind his back, and bowed his head. His shoulders were shaking, not with resistance, not with grief anymore, but with the particular trembling of a body that has released something it has been tensing against for longer than it can remember, and doesn't yet know how to be still without it. Cruz was gentler with Daniel than she had been with Marcus. Not by much, and not in any way she would have described as gentle, but the difference was there in the way she rested 2 fingers briefly on his forearm before she guided his hands into position, in the way she said his name once quietly before she spoke the formal language of the law. 2 deputies walked Marcus toward the front door. He went without resistance, without a word, without looking at me. At the threshold he stopped, not because anyone told him to, but because he chose to. And he looked back at Daniel with an expression I had not seen on him before. It was not anger, it was not contempt. It was something closer to assessment, the look of a man updating a calculation that had just produced an unexpected result. Then one of the deputies put a hand on his shoulder, and he walked out into the cold. Daniel was still in the center of the room. Cruz had a hand lightly on his arm, ready to walk him out, but she paused. I could tell she was giving him a moment, and I was grateful for it in a way I couldn't have expressed out loud. Daniel turned his head and looked at me over his shoulder. His face had gone past the point of expression. There was nothing left on it that was constructed or managed or performed. Just the face of a 38-year-old man who had run out of everything except the one question he had apparently been saving without knowing it for exactly this moment. Dad. His voice was barely above a whisper. His chin was trembling and he was pressing his lips together to stop it and failing. Will you ever forgive me? The question went into the room and stayed there. I looked at my son, at the set of his jaw and the red rims of his eyes and the slight involuntary way his shoulders had curved forward, the posture of a man bracing for impact. And I understood that there was no answer I could give him in that moment that would be true. Not because I didn't know what I felt, but because what I felt was not yet a single thing. It was a dozen things layered over each other, the way geological strata layer over each other, grief and fury and love and something so tired it didn't have a name, and it would be a long time before any of it sorted itself into something I could hand to another person and call honest. My jaw worked. The back of my throat burned. I took one step toward him, just one. I put my hand on his shoulder, one firm, brief pressure, the kind that says, "I know you are still here," the kind that does not promise anything about what comes next. And then I let go. Cruz walked him out the front door. I listened to the sound of boots on the porch steps, the creak of the deputy's vehicle door, the low murmur of voices outside. Then the engine turned over, and the sound of it moved down the lane and faded into the trees and the snow and the gray December afternoon. And the cabin was quiet in the way that cabins are quiet when they have been full and have suddenly been emptied. I did not move for a long time. Cruz came back in alone. She stood just inside the doorway, giving me the space she seemed to understand I needed. "Rebecca," I said. My voice was rough at the edges. "What happens to her?" Cruz folded her arms. She had no specific knowledge of Leah Donovan, no knowledge of the location, no knowledge of the nature of the original crime. What she knew was that her husband was planning to do something that would harm you. She paused. "She's also the person who made sure the recording reached your grandson. A prosecutor looking at that combination is going to see a cooperative witness, not a defendant." "And she was protecting Ethan," I said. "She thought she was protecting him from having a father in prison. She had no idea she was protecting him from something that went this far back." "I know," Cruz said. "We'll need to speak with her, but my read is she's going to be all right." I nodded. The tightness in my chest did not ease, but something in it shifted a fraction, a single degree, the way a locked thing shifts when the right key is turned in it. Cruz looked at the lantern on the window ledge at the open compartment, the photograph, the button, the sealed envelope addressed to Carol Donovan. "Your wife," she said carefully, "put this together over a very long time." "Yes," I said. "She did." Cruz nodded once. She didn't say anything more about it. Some things don't need more than that. She left me with her card and the case number and instructions to stay reachable, and then she was gone, and I was alone in the cabin with the fire that had burned down to coals, and the open lantern, and the photograph of my son at 21 years old, and everything Evelyn had known and kept and carried, and finally, with a brass key and 4 words on a slip of paper, handed to me. I picked up the envelope addressed to Carol Donovan. I turned it over in my hands. The paper was soft at the corners. Evelyn's handwriting on the front was even and careful, the way she wrote when she was writing something she intended to last. I put it in my coat pocket. Then I sat down in her chair, faced the dying fire, and let the weight of the day settle over me, the way snow settles slowly, completely, without asking permission. I spent the night of December 22nd alone in the cabin. I did not drive back to Sacramento. I did not call anyone. I built the fire back up from the coals Cruz had left burning, and I sat in Evelyn's chair, and I let the hours move past me, the way water moves past. Something fixed in a current, steadily and differently, without asking whether the thing in its path was ready. December 23rd passed the same way. I swept the porch. I checked the water heater. I found the loose latch on the back bedroom window and fixed it with a screwdriver I located in the drawer where Evelyn had always kept tools that were too small to need their own place. I ate a sandwich I didn't taste and drank coffee that went cold before I finished it and walked down to the tree line twice in the afternoon. For no reason I could have named, except that the air was cold and clean and required nothing of me. I did not open the lantern compartment again. I did not look at the photograph or the button or the folder. I left them exactly where they were on the window ledge beside the lantern, and I let them sit there and be what they were. I slept badly and woke before 5 and lay in the dark, listening to the wind work through the pines outside the bedroom window, and somewhere around first light, I finally slept deeply for about 2 hours, and when I woke again, it was 7:20, and the cabin was bright with the particular sharp light that comes off fresh snow on a clear morning. My phone rang at 7:40. Cruz's name on the screen. I sat up and answered before the second ring finished. "Mr. Haynes." Her voice was measured the way it always was, but underneath the professional evenness, there was something careful in it, the particular care of someone delivering information they know will land hard regardless of how gently it is placed. "We found her." The 2 words went through me like cold water poured directly into the chest. "Where?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. My free hand had gripped the edge of the mattress without me telling it to, fingers pressing into the fabric, like it was something that needed to be held in place. Exactly where Daniel said, north of Mercer Lake. A brief pause. The search team went in at first light. It didn't take long. I pressed my back against the headboard and looked at the ceiling. The wood grain up there was the same wood grain it had always been. The same knot in the same beam that Evelyn had once said looked like a sleeping fox if you tilted your head to the left, and I stared at it and breathed. "There's something else?" Cruz said. "Tell me." We found a sealed plastic bag with the remains. Inside personal items, a ring, a wallet, a student ID issued to Leah Donovan. She let that sit for a moment. The bag was intact. Everything inside was preserved. I understood immediately what that meant, and the understanding arrived not as a thought but as a physical sensation, a tightening across the shoulders, a heat behind the eyes that I had to blink against hard. Marcus Vane had kept those things for 17 years, not out of sentiment, not by accident. He had sealed them in a bag and kept them the way a man keeps something he intends to use, clean, preserved, accessible. A ring that a mother had given her daughter. A student ID with a 22-year-old's photograph on it, kept in a bag in the dark, waiting to become useful. He was going to use them, I said, against anyone who became inconvenient. "That's our read," Cruz said, "including Daniel if it came to that." I thought about Daniel at 21 years old, standing on a dark mountain road, terrified, handing control of his entire future to a man who had immediately begun cataloging the tools he would need to control him for the rest of his life. The heat behind my eyes pushed harder. I pressed 2 fingers against the bridge of my nose and held them there. "The forensic preliminary," Cruz continued, "indicates Leah was alive when she was brought to the site. Cause of death is still being determined, but the evidence is consistent with injuries that were survivable with medical treatment. She was alive. She had been alive and breathing, and 22 years old, and my son had driven away." I did not trust my voice for a moment. I set the phone against my chest and breathed 4 slow counts in 4 slow counts, out the way Evelyn had taught me to breathe when something threatened to take me under, and then I brought the phone back up. "Nevada called as well," Cruz said. "They're reopening a 2003 file, a missing person in Washoe County. Marcus Vane's name was in the original investigation. They didn't have enough then. They're saying they may have enough now." "How many?" I asked. The question came out before I had fully decided to ask it. Cruz was quiet for a beat. "We don't know yet." I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Outside the bedroom window, a pair of Steller's jays were arguing in the pine branches with the cheerful ferocity of creatures who had no awareness whatsoever that anything in the world had changed overnight. I watched them for a moment, the blue-black flash of their wings, the indignant tilt of their crests, and felt something in me that was not quite gratitude and not quite grief, but lived somewhere between them. "The Donovan family," I said. "Has someone spoken to them?" "This morning, a victim's advocate from our office contacted Carol Donovan directly." Carol Donovan, the name on the envelope in my coat pocket in Evelyn's handwriting, soft at the corners from being picked up and put down so many times across so many years. "I need her address," I said. Cruz hesitated. "Mr. Haynes?" "I'm not going to cause any trouble," I said. "I have something that belongs to her. Something my wife wrote and never sent." I looked at my coat hanging on the hook by the bedroom door, the envelope visible in the breast pocket from across the room. "She's waited 17 years. I don't want her to wait any longer than she has to." A pause. Then Cruz read me the address. I wrote it on the back of a receipt from the grocery store in Sacramento. Eggs Coffee, the small Douglas fir I had bought for the cabin, and I folded it and put it in my shirt pocket next to my heart. Then I got up, made coffee, drank it standing at the kitchen window, while the jays continued their argument in the pines, and got dressed for the drive down the mountain. The house on Ridgeview Court was a single-story ranch with white trim and a covered porch, the kind of a house that had been cared for steadily over many years, without ever being renovated into something it wasn't. The flower beds along the front walk were empty now, cleared for winter, but someone had edged them recently, and the soil was dark and turned ready for spring in the way that only a person who intends to still be tending them in April keeps soil ready in December. I sat in my truck at the curb for a moment. I had driven down the mountain with the envelope in my breast pocket and the address on the receipt from the grocery store, and no clear idea of what I was going to say when the door opened. I had rehearsed nothing. Every sentence I had tried to put together on the drive felt like the wrong shape, too formal, too apologetic, too heavy. with explanations that would require Carol Donovan to do work she had not asked to do, on a morning she had already received the hardest phone call of the last 17 years. I got out of the truck. The porch steps were solid underfoot. I knocked twice and the door opened before the echo of the second knock had finished. Carol Donovan was 67 years old, with white hair cut close to her head and eyes that had once been a clear, sharp blue and had gone softer with the years, in the way that eyes go soft when they have looked at too many difficult things for too long. She was smaller than I had imagined, slight, with careful posture, wearing a gray cardigan over a dark blouse, her hands folded in front of her. She looked at me with those faded blue eyes, and something in her face shifted a recognition that arrived not from knowing me, but from knowing the shape of the errand I was carrying. "You're Walter Haynes," she said. "Yes, ma'am." She stepped back from the door and opened it wider. The living room was quiet and orderly, with photographs on the walls and a small Christmas tree on the table by the window, barely 2 feet tall, unlit, decorated with a handful of ornaments that looked like they had been handled many thousands of times. On the mantelpiece above a gas fireplace was a school photograph of a young woman with dark hair and a wide smile. The kind of photograph that gets taken in October when the leaves are turning and everyone is told to wear something that will look good in 20 years. Leah Donovan at 22 had smiled like someone who expected good things. My chest tightened until I had to breathe through it carefully. I reached into my coat and took out the envelope. I held it with both hands the way you hold something that does not belong to you. "My wife wrote this," I said. "Her name was Evelyn. She found out what happened, not all of it, but enough. She addressed this to you, and she sealed it, and she kept it for years." My voice threatened to go rough, and I steadied it. She didn't mail it because she was afraid the investigation would reach back to me, and she didn't want that to happen. She was trying to protect me. I set the envelope on the coffee table between us. "I'm sorry she didn't send it. I'm sorry it took this long to get to you." Carol looked at the envelope. She did not pick it up immediately. She sat in the armchair across from me and looked at it the way a person looks at something they have been waiting for, long enough that the arrival of it requires a moment of adjustment. "The woman from the sheriff's office called this morning," Carol said. "She told me they found Leah." Her voice was even and quiet, the voice of a woman who had learned a long time ago that falling apart in front of strangers accomplished nothing. "She told me about your son." "Yes, and the other man." "Marcus Vane." I said the name clearly because it deserved to be said clearly. "He was the one who made the decisions that night. That doesn't absolve Daniel, but Marcus Vane is the reason your daughter did not get the help she needed." Carol's hands folded in her lap tightened against each other once. Then they loosened. "Mr. Haynes." She looked up at me, and in those faded blue eyes was something I had not prepared myself for. Not the anger I had expected, not the grief I could have managed, but a clear, considered steadiness that told me this woman had already done the work of surviving the worst of this years ago, and what I was watching now was the dignified remainder of that survival. I spent a very long time being angry at whoever did this. I have earned that anger. I am not ashamed of it. She paused. "But I want you to know something. In all those years, I never once thought about the father who didn't know. I never thought about what it costs a man to find out that his son is capable of something like this." Her voice dropped slightly. "I'm sorry that is something you have to carry now." The back of my throat closed entirely. I had come here to give her something. I had not come here expecting to receive anything in return. The grace of what she had just said landed on me with a weight I was completely unprepared for, and for a moment I could not speak, could not move, could only sit in the chair across from Carol Donovan and understand that some people, after everything the world takes from them, still find the capacity to see the person sitting across the table. When I finally trusted my voice, I said, "My grandson. He's 14. He's the one who sent the recording that started all of this. He heard something he shouldn't have, and he sent it to me, and it saved everything." I had to stop and clear my throat. "He'll be with me tonight. I'd like him to know, if you're willing, that you know what he did." Carol picked up the envelope. She held it in both hands, her thumbs moving slowly across Evelyn's handwriting on the front. "Tell him," she said quietly, "that a mother who never got to say goodbye is grateful. Tell him that what he did mattered." I stood up. My legs were steadier than I expected. At the door, Carol touched my arm briefly, just her fingertips, just a moment, and said, "Take care of the boy, Mr. Haynes." "Yes, ma'am," I said. "That's exactly what I intend to do." Vivian Marsh's office was on the 4th floor of a building on Capitol Avenue that had been old when I first walked into it 30 years ago, and had aged since then with the particular dignity of structures that were built to outlast the people who used them. The elevator was slow. The carpet in the hallway was the color of old pine needles. The frosted glass panel on Vivian's door read simply, V, Marsh Attorney at Law, no flourishes, no tagline. Vivian had always believed that a person's work should do its own announcing. She met me at the door herself. She was wearing a dark blazer and the red glasses she favored, and she had a manila folder tucked under her arm and a pen in her hand. Blue ink, always blue ink, because she had once told me that original signatures should look alive. She looked at my face the way she looked at most things directly, without softening what she saw, and without making me feel examined for it. "You went to see Carol Donovan," she said. Not a question. "How did you know?" "Because it's what Evelyn would have done." She stepped back and let me in. "Sit down, Walter. We have work to do." The office smelled of coffee and old paper, and the particular quiet of a room where serious things had been decided for a very long time. I sat in the chair across from her desk, the same chair I had sat in when we closed the sale of my company, when we settled Evelyn's estate, when I had signed my name to documents that marked the endings and beginnings of different chapters of my life. Vivian opened the folder. "Haynes Family Trust," she said, setting the first document in front of me. "California Probate Code 15200, Revocable Living Trust established by you as truster and trustee. Ethan James Haynes is named as sole beneficiary upon your death." She tapped the page with her pen. "The property cannot be sold, leased, mortgage, renamed, or transferred without written trustee approval. No spouse, in-law, or third party acquires independent rights to the property through marriage or relationship to the beneficiary. Access to the cabin requires written permission, logged and revocable at any time." "And Daniel?" I asked. Vivian's expression did not change. "Daniel's criminal proceedings will not affect the trust. The property belongs to you, established in trust for Ethan. It is not subject to forfeiture based on your son's conviction." She paused. "However, I have drafted an additional clause stating that no individual with a criminal conviction related to this matter may benefit from or make claims against the trust property. It is clean, Walter. Whatever happens in court, the cabin stays where it belongs." I nodded. My hands were steady on the arms of the chair. Outside the window, Sacramento was gray and quiet under a low December sky, and the streets were thin with the particular emptiness of Christmas Eve morning when most people had already gone where they were going. "Rebecca," I said. Vivian set down her pen. "I spoke with the DA's office this morning. Rebecca had no specific knowledge of Leah Donovan, no knowledge of the location, the nature of the original incident, or any of the events of 2007. What she knew was limited to the belief that Daniel was planning to harm you financially or legally." She folded her hands on the desk. Combined with the fact that her actions leaving the recording, where Ethan could find it, directly contributed to exposing the conspiracy, the prosecution has no viable path forward against her. She will be called as a witness, that is all. The tightness that had lived in my chest since the previous morning shifted slightly, not gone, but moved. "There is something else," Vivian said. She reached into the folder and drew out a second document. Thinner, older. The paper slightly yellowed at the edges in the way paper yellows when it has been kept in a dry place for several years. She set it on the desk between us and turned it so I could read it. It was a trust document. Haynes Family Trust, California, Probate Code. 15200. The language was nearly identical to the papers in front of me. The same structure, the same protections, the same prohibitions against sale or transfer. Ethan James Haynes named as sole beneficiary. Dated June 14th, 2019. Evelyn's signature was at the bottom of the page. Her handwriting on the signature line was steady, but slightly smaller than her usual script, the way handwriting gets smaller when the hand producing it is beginning to lose some of its certainty, some of its force. I recognized it immediately as the handwriting of the last year or two before her diagnosis. She had known something was wrong with her body before the doctors confirmed it, and the knowledge had made her careful in ways that were visible if you knew what you were looking at. My throat closed. "She drafted this 2 years before she died," Vivian said quietly. "She never brought it to me directly. It was in the folder from the private investigations firm tucked inside the back cover." She looked at me over the rims of her red glasses. "She built the same protections, Walter, the same structure, almost word for word." I picked up the document, The paper was cool and slightly stiff between my fingers. I turned to Evelyn's signature and looked at it for a long moment. The careful, slightly diminished loops of her name, the date beneath it, the 2 years of life she still had ahead of her when she sat down and wrote this out and filed it away against the day it might be needed. She had not known whether that day would ever come. She had prepared for it anyway. She called me once, Vivian said. January of 2020. She asked me hypothetically about trust structures and whether a criminal conviction could affect inherited property. A pause. I gave her a hypothetical answer. I didn't know it wasn't hypothetical. She was protecting everyone, I said. Until the very end. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then she took off her red glasses and cleaned them with the hem of her blazer, a gesture I had never seen her make in 30 years of knowing her. She put them back on and looked at me with the clear, unsentimental eyes of a woman who had spent a career in proximity to human grief and had never confused professionalism with indifference. She was the most quietly determined person I have ever encountered in this work, Vivian said, and I have encountered a great many. I set Evelyn's document down beside the one Vivian had prepared. Side by side, they were nearly the same thing. One written in the last year of her life by a woman who was running out of time and knew it. One written last night by her husband's attorney who had stayed up past midnight to finish it because it was the right thing to do. There is one more document, Vivian said. She drew a single page from beneath the folder and set it on top. A separate education and opportunity fund for Ethan, protected independently of the trust, no adult trustee other than you. She looked at me. She didn't plan this one. I wrote it the night before last. Her voice was even and precise. Because it is what she would have wanted. I looked at the page, my eyes were burning at the corners, and I let them burn for a moment before I blinked it back. Where do I sign? I asked. Vivian uncapped her blue pen and set it on the desk between us. Start at the top, she said. We'll work our way through. The first page took longer to sign than it should have. Not because I hesitated, not because I had doubts about any word on it, but because when I set the pen to the signature line and looked at the blank space waiting for my name, I understood for the first time, with my whole body, not just my mind, not just my understanding of the law, but all of me, down to the place where things are felt before they are thought what I was doing. I was keeping a promise I had never been asked to make out loud. I signed my name. The blue ink went down clean and deliberate the way Vivian had always said the original signatures should look. She turned to the next page without ceremony. We worked through the document steadily, page by page, the scratch of the pen and the soft sound of paper turning the only sounds in the room. Vivian initialed where required and indicated where I needed to sign, and said nothing that was not necessary. This was one of the things I had always valued about her. She understood the difference between silence that needed filling and silence that needed protecting. We reached the page for the education fund. I stopped. Ethan James Haynes, 14 years old, sleeping in a house in Sacramento. Right now, probably having spent the last 2 nights not knowing whether his grandfather was safe and not having anyone he could ask. He had heard something he should not have had to hear. He had done something that most adults given the same information and the same stakes would have talked themselves out of doing. He had sent a message into the dark and waited not knowing if anyone was on the other end. He hadn't even opened the box. That detail had stayed with me since Vivian read the description of it. A boy of 14 finding something hidden under a floorboard with his grandmother's handwriting on the lid and leaving it untouched for 2 summers because it had someone else's name on it. Evelyn would have loved him for that. She had loved him for it. I realized she had known exactly the kind of person he was, and she had trusted that person with the thing she most needed protected. My hand was not entirely steady when I signed that page. He doesn't know about this yet, I said. No, Vivian said. When would you like to tell him? I thought about the cabin, the lantern on the window ledge, the tin star I had carried up the mountain that morning that now seemed like it had been carried by a different person in a different life. Tonight, I said, when we're up there together. Vivian nodded and turned to the final page. I signed it, set the pen down, sat back in the chair, and looked at the stack of documents that was now a legal instrument, a structure, a thing that would outlast this day and this year and eventually outlast me. Vivian, I said. She was already gathering the pages into order, tapping the edges against the desk to align them. She looked up. Did she ever visit you in person? After that call in January? Vivian went still. The papers rested in her hands. She looked at me over her red glasses and something moved through her expression that was not quite sorrow and not quite admiration, but carried elements of both. Once, she said. March of 2020, she came without an appointment. Marta at the front desk almost turned her away. A pause. She sat in that chair where you're sitting now. She didn't bring any documents, she didn't ask any questions, she just sat there for about 10 minutes and looked out the window at Capitol Avenue. Vivian's voice stayed even, but she set the papers down. When she stood to leave, she said, and I remember this exactly, she said, "Vivian, when the time comes, Walter will know what to do. I just needed to sit somewhere serious for a few minutes." Then she left. The back of my throat went tight. "I didn't understand it then," Vivian continued. "I assumed she was having a difficult day. Her diagnosis was recent. I thought she needed a quiet room." She looked at her hands on the desk. "Now, I think she came here because this office was the place where things got done properly." She was reminding herself that the system she'd built would hold. "She wouldn't have told you what it was for," I said. "She carried it alone so we wouldn't have to." "I know that now." Vivian picked up her pen and capped it. "For what it's worth, she was right to trust the structure. It would have held then. It holds now." "She built it for an emergency she wasn't sure would ever come," I said. "She just needed to know it would work if it did." Vivian looked at me for a moment. Then she said with the careful precision of someone choosing each word deliberately, "She loved you in a way that required a great deal of courage." The words landed somewhere I hadn't known was unprotected. My jaw tightened. My eyes burned at the corners the way they had been burning off and on since yesterday morning, and I let them burn for a moment, and then I breathed out slowly through my nose and looked at the window and the gray Sacramento sky beyond it. Outside, a car passed on Capitol Avenue with a wreath wired to its grill, the red ribbon snapping in the cold air as it went. "I need to go pick up my grandson," I said. My voice came out rough at the first word and steadied by the last. Vivian stood. She extended her hand across the desk, not the formal handshake of a business transaction, but the direct, firm grip of one person steadying another at the edge of something large. I shook it. "Go," she said. "He's been waiting long enough." I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. At the door, I paused because there was something I needed to say, and I wanted to say it while I still had the room and the quiet for it. "Thank you," I said, "for last night, for the fund, for all of it." Vivian looked at me over her red glasses with the clear, unhurried eyes of a woman who had spent 40 years doing serious work and had never once needed to be thanked for it to feel worthwhile. "Go get the boy," she said. I went. Rebecca's house was a craftsman bungalow on a quiet street in East Sacramento, with a maple tree in the front yard that Evelyn had once said was the best thing about the neighborhood. The maple was bare now, its branches making clean, dark lines against the gray December sky, and the porch light was on, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. She had been watching for me. The door opened before I reached the porch steps. Rebecca Haynes was 36 years old, with dark hair pulled back from a face that was composed in the careful way of someone who has decided, before the door opens, exactly how composed they intend to be. Her eyes were red at the rims, not freshly, but in the way that eyes look after a long night of difficult things, followed by a morning of difficult things, when the redness has had time to settle in and become part of the landscape of the face. She was wearing a dark green sweater, and she had her arms crossed in front of her, not defensively, but the way people cross their arms when they are cold and trying not to show it. She looked at me and her chin went up slightly. "You didn't know about Leah," I said. It wasn't an accusation. It was the only place I knew to start. Her throat moved. "No, I swear to you, Walter, I did not know. What Daniel told me in 2019, it was vague. He said he had been involved in something years ago, that someone had been hurt, that a man named Marcus had helped him cover it up. He didn't say her name. He didn't say how badly." Her voice stayed even until the last sentence, and then it frayed at the edges like cloth pulled too tight. If I had known what it actually was, I would have gone to the police myself, whatever it cost us. "I believe you," I said, and I did. She pressed her lips together hard. Her eyes went bright, and she blinked once sharply, and by the time she blinked again, the brightness was under control. "The recording," she said. "I left the phone where Ethan would find it. I didn't tell him what it was. I heard Daniel talking to Marcus, and I knew something was wrong, something involving you, and I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't call the police on my husband in front of my son, but I couldn't let you get hurt either." "You made the right call," I said. It mattered. It saved everything. Her arms tightened briefly across her chest, and then she let them fall to her sides. "He's ready," she said. "He's been ready for an hour." Ethan came down the hallway with his backpack over one shoulder and his coat already on, and when he saw me standing in the doorway, the relief that moved across his face was the relief of a 14-year-old who has spent 2 days not knowing and has finally been allowed to stop not knowing. He crossed the entryway in 4 quick steps and put his arms around me, and I put mine around him, and we stood there in the doorway of his mother's house while the maple tree stood bare and patient in the front yard. And Rebecca watched from the hallway with her arms at her sides and her eyes doing the thing they had been doing all morning. "I should have called 911, Ethan said into my shoulder. His voice was muffled and slightly unsteady. "I should have called right away instead of just texting. I kept thinking maybe I was wrong about what I heard." I pulled back and looked at him. He had Evelyn's forehead and Daniel's jaw, and eyes that were entirely his own, clear and gray, and still slightly damp at the corners. I put both hands on his shoulders. "You were 14 years old," I said. "You heard something that frightened you. You didn't know how serious it was, and you still sent the message." I held his gaze. "Your grandmother knew exactly what kind of person you were. She was right." He blinked rapidly several times. His jaw worked. He pressed his mouth shut and nodded, because he didn't trust his voice, and I understood that, because I had been operating on the same principle for the better part of 2 days. I looked back at Rebecca. "Call me when you're ready to talk," I said. "About what comes next. About all of it." She nodded. "Take care of him." "That's all I'm planning to do." We drove up the mountain mostly without talking, and the talking we did was about small things, the condition of the road, whether there was enough wood stacked on the porch to last the night, whether Ethan wanted to stop for food on the way, or wait until Martha brought whatever she had promised to bring. The mountain rose around us through the switchbacks, and the pine trees closed over the road, and the snow on the shoulders deepened, and by the time the cabin came into view through the trees, the sky had gone the deep, still blue of late afternoon. In December, the kind of blue that only exists for about 20 minutes before it darkens into something else. I parked in the gravel lane. We got out. The cabin was cold inside. The fire had been out since 2 days ago, but the light was still good, and the copper lantern sat exactly where I had left it on the window ledge. The compartment closed now, everything inside it where it needed to be. Ethan stood in the middle of the room and looked around at the space the way he always had, as a child, doing his quiet inventory of the place. "Is it really mine?" he asked. "I signed the papers this morning," I said. "It's yours." He turned and looked at me, and his face did something complicated that resolved after a moment into the particular expression of a person who has been given something they did not expect and does not yet know how to hold it. His eyes went red and stayed red, and he pressed his lips together and nodded the same way he had nodded in his mother's doorway. "Grandma would have liked that," he said. His voice cracked on the last word. "Yes," I said. "She would have." He walked to the window. He stood in front of the copper lantern for a long moment, looking at it, and then he turned back to me. "Grandpa," he said, "there's something I need to show you." He led me to the small back bedroom, the room he had always used when the whole family came up together, with the narrow bed and the window that faced the tree line, and the floorboards that had always been slightly uneven near the eastern wall. He crouched down in the corner beside the old pine dresser and worked his fingers under the edge of a board that was looser than the rest. It came up quietly. Beneath it, in a space no larger than a shoebox, was a small metal tin, the kind that might once have held tea or biscuits, with a piece of paper taped to the lid. The paper was folded once. The handwriting on the outside was Evelyn's. "For Walter, when he's ready." I crouched down beside Ethan. My knees ached and I barely noticed. "I found it 2 summers ago," Ethan said. His voice had gone low and careful. "I didn't open it. It had your name." I looked at the tin, at Evelyn's handwriting on the paper taped to the lid, at my grandson's face beside me, watching me with the steady gray eyes of a boy who had found something that did not belong to him, and had left it exactly where it was for 2 years because it was someone else's. My chest felt like something was pressing against the inside of it from every direction at once. I reached down and picked up the tin. "Not yet," I said. My voice came out quieter than I intended. "Let's get the cabin ready, get the fire going. Wait for everyone to come." I looked at Ethan. "Then I'll open it." He studied me for a moment with those clear gray eyes. Then he nodded and stood up and offered me his hand to help me up from the crouch, the way you offer a hand to someone older, without making anything of it the way Evelyn used to do. I took it. Ethan built the fire. He had always known how to do it. Evelyn had taught him the summer he turned 10, sitting beside him on the stone hearth with her reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, correcting the angle of the kindling with the patience of someone who understood that the right way to do a thing was worth the time it took to learn. He stacked the wood the way she had shown him the paper at the bottom, kindling crossed above it, the larger pieces set at the angles that would let the air move through, and when he struck the match and held it to the paper, the fire caught cleanly on the first try. He looked at it for a moment, then he looked at me. She showed me how, he said. I know, I said. She showed me too. We worked through the next hour without talking much. I found the bag of ornaments I had brought up 2 days ago, still sitting in the back seat of my truck, where I had left them in the chaos of everything that had happened since I arrived. I carried them in and set them on the table. Ethan carried in the small Douglas fir from the truck bed, still wrapped in its burlap, and we stood it in the corner of the room in the old iron stand that had held every tree Evelyn had ever put up in this cabin. The tin star was still on the side table near the door, where I had set it the morning I walked in and found Daniel standing at the fireplace. I had not touched it since. Ethan picked it up and turned it over in his hands. Top of the tree, he asked. That's where it goes, I said. Martha Bellamy arrived first at 5:10, with a basket in each arm and snow on the shoulders of her coat and the brisk, purposeful energy of a woman who has decided that what a situation requires is food and presence and is prepared to provide both in quantity. I made apple cake, she said, setting the baskets on the kitchen counter and beginning to unpack them with the efficient movements of someone who has fed people through difficult times before and knows that the feeding matters as much as the food. And chicken soup because it's cold, and because soup is what you make when you don't know what else to do. She looked around the cabin, at the fire at the tree in the corner, at Ethan standing beside the window, with the tin star still in his hands. Her eyes went soft for just a moment. Then she turned back to the baskets. Where do you keep the bowls? And same place they've always been, I said. Good. She opened the cabinet without looking. Sit down, both of you. You look like you've been standing for 2 days. Vivian arrived 20 minutes later with a bottle of Pinot Noir from a vineyard in the Shenandoah Valley foothills, which she opened immediately and poured into 2 glasses, handing one to me and keeping the other for herself. She looked around the cabin with the same direct assessment she applied to everything took in the fire and the tree and the copper lantern on the window ledge and the tin star now resting on the kitchen table, and said nothing for a moment. Then she sat down in the chair nearest the fire, crossed her ankles, and said to Martha, Whatever you made smells extraordinary. Apple cake, Martha said. Perfect, said Vivian, and raised her glass. I took 1 sip of the wine and set it down. Vivian drank enough for both of us, which seemed fair. Cruz arrived just after 6, still in her uniform, the dark fabric of her jacket carrying the cold of outside. She was holding a rectangular box wrapped in red paper with a silver bow that looked like it had been applied in a parking lot. For Ethan, she said, holding it out. Ethan looked at the box with the careful wariness of a teenager receiving an unexpected gift from an authority figure. He took it, sat on the floor by the fire, and opened it. Inside was an assembly kit for a model steam locomotive, detailed HO scale with a length of track and a hand-painted engine that even I could see was the good kind. It's from the department, Cruz said, sitting down on the hearth across from him. We had a collection. I added a little. Nobby Ethan looked up at her. You didn't have to. I know. She looked at the pieces laid out on the floor. Do you know how to put it together? I've done smaller ones. Then show me how it starts, she said. I've got time. She took off her jacket and folded it over the arm of the chair and sat down cross-legged on the floor beside my grandson, and they began sorting the pieces together in the firelight, Ethan explaining each component in the patient, slightly superior way of a person who knows more about something than the person they are teaching, and Cruz listening with what appeared to be genuine interest and asking questions that made Ethan's explanations more precise. I watched this from across the room and felt something I had not felt in 2 days, something that did not have a name exactly, but that lived in the same neighborhood as gratitude. Martha served the soup. Vivian refilled her glass. Outside, snow began to fall again. I could see it in the light from the porch, coming down steady and fine, covering the gravel lane and the pine branches and the place where Daniel's truck had been parked 2 days ago. Nobody talked about Daniel. Nobody talked about Marcus. Nobody pretended the evening was something it wasn't. But there was food on the table and fire in the grate and the small sounds of Cruz and Ethan assembling a locomotive on the floor, and the cabin held all of it without effort, the way it had always held the things that mattered. At some point, Martha put the apple cake on the table, and Vivian said that under the circumstances, she felt entitled to a second glass, and nobody argued with her. Cruz looked up from the floor. "Nevada called again this afternoon," she said, keeping her voice neutral in the way she did when she was delivering information in a social setting that would normally belong in a professional one. "They have enough to proceed. It will take time, but they're moving." I nodded. "How much time?" "Months, probably. These things move slowly." She looked back at the locomotive pieces. "But they move." I looked at the copper lantern on the window ledge. Dark compartment closed everything inside it, resting where it had been for years. Then I looked at the tin on the kitchen table, Evelyn's handwriting on the paper taped to the lid, waiting with the same patience it had been exercising for 2 summers in the dark beneath a floorboard. Ethan caught my eye from across the room. He looked at the tin, then he looked at me. "Grandpa," he said. The room went quiet, not abruptly, but the way things go quiet when people sense that something is about to happen that deserves the space. Ethan stood up. He crossed to the window and reached up and lit the copper lantern. The flame caught and steadied, and the warm gold light spread across the window ledge and out across the snow on the porch railing beyond the glass. The cabin looked exactly the way it had looked on every Christmas Eve of Ethan's life. Exactly the way it had looked on every Christmas Eve of mine. "I think she'd want you to open it now," Ethan said. Martha and Vivian and Cruz moved quietly to the screened porch without being asked. I don't know which of them decided it first. One moment they were all in the room, Martha setting the cake plates aside, Vivian turning her wine glass in her hands, Cruz still cross-legged on the floor with the locomotive pieces arranged in neat rows by size, and then without a word passing between them, they were gathering their things and moving toward the porch door. And Cruz paused at the threshold and looked back at Ethan with a small nod, and Ethan nodded back and the door closed softly behind them. I was left alone with my grandson and the tin on the kitchen table. I sat down. Ethan sat across from me in the same chair his grandmother had always taken at this table, and the fire was burning well behind him, and the copper lantern on the window ledge was casting its warm light across the room, the way it had cast its warm light across this room on every Christmas Eve of the 30 years I had spent in this place. I reached out and picked up the tin. The metal was cool and slightly rough at the seam, where the lid met the base. I worked the paper off carefully Evelyn's handwriting on the outside for Walter. When he's ready in the careful, slightly diminished script, I now recognized as the handwriting of her last years. I set the paper on the table beside the tin so it would not tear. The lid came off with a soft, dry sound. Inside was a notebook, brown leather cover, the kind you find in stationery shops small enough to fit in a coat pocket. The cover was worn at the corners, and the spine had been cracked open and re-cracked so many times that it fell open naturally to the middle when I lifted it. I turned to the first page. March 14th, 2007. Her handwriting from that year was different from the handwriting on the paper. I had just set aside, fuller, rounder, the confident script of a woman in her mid-40s, who has not yet been asked by her own body to make accommodations. I recognized it from the birthday cards she used to leave on my pillow, from the shopping lists that always included one item that was only ever for me. I did not read every page. Some things a person is not required to absorb all at once. Some things need to be approached gradually, the way you approach a fire that has been burning for a long time in an enclosed space, carefully, with respect for what the accumulated heat has become. I read the first entry, March 14th, 2007. 2 days after the night, Daniel came home at 2 a.m. with mud on his jacket and a story about a deer. Her handwriting was steady, but the sentences were short, clipped in the way that writing gets clipped when the hand producing it is trying to move faster than the mind can fully manage. He's not telling me everything. I can feel it in the way he looked at me when I asked. His father looks at me the same way when he's afraid I'll see something he isn't ready to show me. The difference is Walter always shows me eventually. I'm not sure Daniel has that in him. I hope I'm wrong. I turned pages without reading. I stopped at one from 2019. I found the site today. The investigator sent the coordinates. I drove out there alone. I didn't tell Walter. I told him I had a doctor's appointment, which I did later. in which I did not tell him the results of either, because I am becoming quite skilled at keeping things from the man I love, and I am not proud of it, but I do not see another way through this that does not destroy him along with everything else. I stood at the edge of that place for a long time. I did not go in. I could not make myself go in. I took 3 photographs, and I drove home, and I made dinner, and I watched Walter eat it, and I thought, this is the last normal evening I will allow myself to pretend we are having. Tomorrow, I will figure out what to do. I still don't know what to do. My throat had closed entirely. I pressed my lips together and kept reading. The letter to Carol Donovan is finished. It's been finished for 2 weeks. Every time I pick it up to mail it, I put it back down. If I send it, investigators talk to Walter about the truck. Walter gets pulled into something he had no part in. I can't do that to him. I won't. So I am keeping the letter, I am keeping all of it, and I am going to trust that when I am gone, Walter will find what I've left, and he will know what to do with it. Because in 37 years of knowing this man, he has never once failed to do the right thing when it mattered. Not once. I set the notebook down on the table. My hands were not steady. I pressed them flat on the tabletop on either side of the notebook and looked at them until they were steadier, and Ethan watched me from across the table with those clear gray eyes, and did not say anything, because he understood that what was happening in this room did not require commentary. I turned to the last page. November 14th, 2020. Her handwriting on this page was smaller, still careful and deliberate, each letter formed with the attention of someone who is aware that the hand forming them is not entirely reliable and is compensating through concentration. She had pressed harder on the pen than usual. The words were deep in the paper. Walter will find the key. He always finds what I leave for him. I don't know if there will ever be a moment when Daniel comes forward on his own. I have stopped believing that there will be, but I know this. And I know it the way I know the things that are simply true and do not require evidence. Walter will not let our grandson carry the weight of his father's secrets. Whatever happens after I am gone, Ethan will be free of this. That is enough. That is all I ever needed to know. I love you, Walter. I am sorry I couldn't find a cleaner way through. I did the best I could with what I had. Evelyn. I read the entry twice. Then I closed the notebook. The fire made its small, steady sounds behind Ethan. The lantern on the window ledge burned the way it had always burned. Outside the screened porch, I could hear the low voices of Martha and Vivian and Cruz moving through the cold night air, and somewhere in the middle distance the wind was working through the upper branches of the sugar pines with the long, slow sound it makes when it isn't in a hurry. Something gave way inside me. Not dramatically, not all at once. It was a quiet giving way, the kind that happens after the emergency is over, and the body finally understands that it is allowed to feel the thing it has been too busy to feel. My eyes went hot, and the back of my throat burned, and I pressed 2 fingers against the bridge of my nose, the way I had been pressing them for 2 days. And this time, they did not do the work they had been doing. I let it come. Not much, not long, but real. The realest thing I had felt since I stood in the rain 3 years ago and listened to the sound of earth on a casket and understood that the best person I had ever known was not going to be in the world anymore. Ethan did not look away. He did not try to fill the space or redirect the moment or offer me anything except his presence, which was steady and quiet and exactly what was needed in the way that his grandmother's presence had always been steady and quiet and exactly what was needed. When it passed, I breathed out slowly and looked at him. She didn't know it would work out, I said. My voice came out rough at first and smoothed as I went. She prepared everything she could, and then she trusted me to do the rest. She didn't know if I would find it in time. She didn't know if any of it would be enough. I looked at the notebook on the table between us. She just trusted that I would do right by you. Ethan looked at the notebook. His jaw worked once. Then he looked at me with his grandmother's steadiness in his 14-year-old face. "And you did," he said. The porch door opened. Martha put her head in, reading the room with the practiced accuracy of a woman who has spent a lifetime knowing when to enter and when to wait. "It's snowing again," she said. Her voice was gentle. "You should come see." We stood on the porch in the cold and watched the snow come down. It fell the way it sometimes falls in the Sierra Nevada in December, not in the heavy, deliberate sheets of a serious storm, but in the fine, unhurried way of snow that has all night and knows it, drifting through the porch light in slow, tilting spirals that caught the gold of the lantern through the window and held it for a moment before continuing down. Martha stood at the railing with her arms crossed and her face turned up, and she looked the way people look when they are watching something they have seen many times and have not yet tired of. Vivian had her wine glass and was not looking at the snow so much as standing in it, which was its own thing. Cruz had put her jacket back on and was leaning against the porch post with her hands in her pockets, and she was looking at Ethan, who was standing at the very edge of the porch with his hands out and his palms up, catching flakes the way he had done since he was 4 years old, checking whether they melted faster on the left hand or the right. They never did, but he checked every time. Evelyn used to watch him do it and smile in the particular private way she had when something pleased her completely. We stayed on the porch until the cold made staying impractical, and then Martha said she had a long drive and hugged me once firmly in the way. She hugged people like she meant it and didn't need to say so. She held on for a second longer than usual, and when she pulled back her eyes were bright and she pressed her lips together and didn't say anything, because some things between people who have known each other long enough don't need to be said out loud to be fully understood. Vivian shook my hand, the same way she had in her office earlier that day, 2 fingers wrapped around my wrist as well, the grip of one person steadying another, and told me to call her after the holidays. I told her I would. I meant it. Cruz crouched down to Ethan's level before she left and said something to him that I couldn't hear from where I was standing. Whatever it was made him nod twice slowly with the particular gravity of a 14-year-old who has been told something he intends to hold on to. Then she straightened, looked at me across the porch, and gave a single nod that carried everything the evening had contained and required no elaboration. Then they were gone, and the gravel lane was empty, and the snow kept falling. I got Ethan settled in the back bedroom with an extra blanket from the cedar chest, and the locomotive pieces arranged on the dresser for the morning. He was already half asleep when I pulled the blanket up. His breathing slowed and deepened by the time I reached the door. I stood there for a moment and looked at him, 14 years old, sleeping in the same room he had slept in every time the whole family came up to this cabin, since he was small enough that the narrow bed seemed enormous. His grandmother's handwriting was on a piece of paper on the nightstand beside him. He had asked if he could keep it there. I had said yes without hesitating. I went back to the main room. The fire had burned down to a low, steady glow that gave off more heat than light. The coals pulsing orange and red in the grate. The small Douglas fir stood in its corner, with the tin star at the top, the same tin star Evelyn had placed at the top of every tree in this cabin from the year we bought it until the year she couldn't anymore. The notebook was on the kitchen table where I had left it, closed its brown leather cover, dark in the low light. The copper lantern burned in the window, the way it had burned on every Christmas Eve I could remember. I looked at the beam above the fireplace. Evelyn had carved the words there herself, the second summer we owned the cabin, using a chisel she had borrowed from the hardware store in Placerville, and returned the same day with a thank you note tucked inside the bag. I had watched her do it. She had measured the spacing twice before she made the first cut, and she had still gotten it slightly wrong. The second line ran uphill, just a few degrees, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. When I pointed it out, she looked at it for a long moment, and then said that the imperfection was what made it real. I had laughed. She hadn't been joking. Home is where someone is still waiting for you. I had read those words hundreds of times across 30 years. I had read them coming in from splitting wood with my arms full and my back aching. I had read them half asleep crossing the room in the dark for a glass of water. I had read them in the first winters after Evelyn died, when I couldn't make myself come up here at all, and then finally could, and stood in the empty cabin and read them, and felt the truth of them turn into something that cut rather than comforted, because the waiting was over, and the home was still here, and those two facts did not reconcile easily, and I had not known what to do with that. Standing in the quiet of Christmas Eve, with the snow falling outside, and the fire low behind me, and the lantern burning in the window, and Ethan asleep in the back room, with his grandmother's handwriting on the nightstand beside him, I read them one more time, and I understood for the first time in 30 years what she had actually meant when she carved them. She had not been describing the cabin. She had been describing herself. For 38 years, and then for 17 years. On top of that, carrying something no person should have had to carry. Alone, she had been the one who was still waiting. Waiting for Daniel to find his way back to the right thing. Waiting for the truth to find its way into the light, by whatever road it could manage. Waiting for Walter to come home from whatever the day had taken him into, and find her there, patient and present and absolutely certain, down to the foundation of her, that he would do what needed doing when the time came. She had not forced anything. She had not broken anything. She had built a structure careful enough to last and trusted the man she had spent her life with to walk into it at the right moment and do his part. She had been right. I pulled out my phone. Ethan's message was still there, exactly where it had been since 6:47 on the morning of December 22nd. 2 days ago, a lifetime ago. Grandpa, don't go to the cabin today. You'll be in danger. Call me. I read it once. I thought about a 14-year-old boy sitting in his house in Sacramento, not sure if his grandfather had seen the message, not sure if what he'd heard through a closed door was as serious as it felt, not sure if anyone would listen and sending it anyway. Sending it and then waiting the way his grandmother had taught him to wait, with the quiet confidence that doing the right thing was worth doing, even when the outcome wasn't certain. I put the phone in my pocket. I was not going to delete it, not tonight, probably not ever. Outside, the snow was covering the gravel lane, and the pine branches, and the place at the edge of the drive where Daniel's truck had sat 2 mornings ago. The world beyond the window looked clean and unhurried, and entirely indifferent to the specific weight of everything that had happened inside this cabin over the past 48 hours, in the way that only winter landscapes manage patient-wide, quietly prepared to cover whatever needs covering and wait for spring. I stood at the window for a while and let it do that work without interruption. Then I crossed the room and sat down in Evelyn's chair, the one with the worn armrests where her hands had rested through 1,000 evenings of reading and knitting and watching the fire. And I faced the dying coals and let the quiet settle around me the way the snow was settling outside. The copper lantern burned in the window behind me, its light falling out across the porch railing, and the snow beyond it warm and steady and visible from the lane. A light in the window, Evelyn used to say, was how a house told the people it loved that it was still there. It would burn until morning. I have lived long enough to know that the most painful family betrayal is not the one that comes from strangers. It comes from the people who sit at your table, who know your name, who watched you build everything you have, and chose to use that knowledge against you anyway. What Evelyn taught me in the end was something I should have understood long before I found that key. She used to say that God doesn't ask us to carry everything alone. He asks us to carry it honestly. I wasn't carrying anything she was, and she did it out of love, the most quietly courageous kind. This is a family story I wish I did not have to tell. But I tell it because I made mistakes too. I trusted without looking. I believed because believing was easier than asking harder questions. If this family story reaches anyone who is doing the same, please stop. Ask the question. Open the drawer. Find the envelope before someone else decides to find it for you. Family betrayal does not announce itself. It arrives in small decisions made quietly over many years. If tonight's story meant something to you, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from, or share one word that stayed with you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the story that should change that. These stories contain fictional elements crafted for reflection and understanding. If this kind of content isn't for you, I respect that. Find what serves you best. Thank you for staying until the very end. It means more than you know.